Please, Justin, tell me 10 things Sam Bankman Fried should not do in federal prison. I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to indulge you. I'm not giving you the information. He said, Justin, I'm writing a story about your company. I want to cover what white collar criminals can expect while going through this process. Tell me 10 things this guy should not do in federal prison. I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to indulge you. He hasn't even pled guilty yet. Maybe he goes to trial and he's one in a million that prevails. He said, Justin, please, please, please. We know he's going to federal prison. For purposes of this article, I'd like 10 things he shouldn't do in federal prison. I said, I'm not going to do it. However, let me get creative and think about 10 things here any defendant should actually do before they go to prison. So he said, let me understand this. You're not going to tell me 10 things he shouldn't do in prison. You're going to tell me 10 things he should do before he goes to prison. I said, yes, if he's convicted and goes to prison. He said, fine, I want to learn. It was interesting having this conversation because I began to rattle off some of these things and I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. Of all the content our team has created over the years, I haven't done a specific thing someone should do before they go in. And I hope to spend more time on it. I will in the coming weeks. I know I'm going to be heading to Atlanta, Georgia in a couple of weeks to join my good friend Lindsay Chrisley on her podcast. As you know, her parents, Todd, serving 12 years in prison, Julie serving 7 years in federal prison. So very fortunate to know the family, and I'm looking forward to sharing more content with hopes that it helps everyone better understand this system and ways to prepare. So the journalist then said, okay, give me 10 things. I said, some of them are going to sound ridiculous. He said, I don't care. I want to have them. Tell me. I said, great. Number one, Sam Bankman Fried should, before he goes to prison, should begin taking a lot of very cold showers. He's like, interesting, why? I'm like, well, in the halfway house, along with life in federal prison, showers can get very cold. The hot water goes out, and some guys, they complain, they yell, this is cold. I would encourage Bankman Fried to not complain, to endure the cold shower. And the way that you can begin to endure a cold shower is to actually take cold showers before you go to prison. Plus, a lot of people say it's healthy. I don't love them, but I got used to them on the inside. Number two, I told him, Sam Bankman Fried is probably like a lot of us who are obsessed with this thing, the iPhone, day in and day out. There's a lot of people in our community who surrender to federal prison and say, I don't know how to say this, but I actually miss my iPhone more than I do sex. Now, that could lead to some sex jokes on the inside, but there's no sexual activity, rape in these minimum security camps. That's nonsense. The truth is some people are just so addicted to this advice that they go through massive withdrawal. So I would encourage Bankman Fried, hey, dude, I know you may go to prison. It could be a long time. Get in the habit of going without these devices. So for 2 days, 3 days, a week, put the phone away. No texting, no iPhone, no TikTok, no YouTube, no email, nothing. If someone needs to reach you, they can find a way to reach you. Call your mom, your lawyer's on the phone. Then if you have to get on the phone, you can. But get into this habit of not being so addicted to this damn device, because some people suffer from withdrawal so greatly once they go to prison, they begin to get into disciplinary infractions. There's temptation all around us. And if people haven't developed the ability to withstand temptation, or if they are easily manipulated, like, hey man, you're out of phone minutes. How'd you like to call home for 5 minutes to do FaceTime with your kids? I know you missed them. It's only going to cost you $10. A lot of guys who are addicted to it give in. And of course, there are massive consequences. I told this journalist for getting a disciplinary infraction in prison. You go to the hole, you can go to a higher security prison, you can go on the chain gang or go through transit for weeks and months. And in some cases, people are actually getting indicted on new charges. The consequences are significant. So I'd encourage Bankman Fried or anyone to get used to not having that iPhone. I would encourage Bankman Fried to get used to going to bed some nights hungry. There's limited food in the commissary, and at times the food in the chow hall might not be edible, or sometimes even if you eat in the chow hall, if you're used to having more, living a life of excess and having everything you want at your fingertips 24 hours a day, you do learn to go without in prison. It requires a sense of stoicism, a sense of acceptance, and that you cannot control it. So I would encourage any soon-to-be prisoner to get used to going to bed some nights hungry. Therefore, when you transition into this environment, it's not such a shock. Now, I mentioned this number 4 to the journalist, and he started laughing. When I surrendered to federal prison, the first thing I did, I walked into the dorm, and these lights were like really bright above me. I'm like, okay, that's okay. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When I go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, it's not going to be as light. But apparently, when I went to bed at 8 o'clock, because I was in the front of the dorm and it took some time to adjust well, get a new bunkie, and work my way back, they joke it's like from East Los Angeles to Beverly Hills. When you're in the front of the dorm, because you walk in, there's the TV room, the counselor's offices, the phones. It's just very hectic in the front where I was initially housed. The lights were on, and when they went off, I didn't realize they were off because they were like still on. So I would encourage any soon-to-be prisoner, like, go to bed some nights with the lights totally on. Therefore, when you transition, you're not in such shock. After I got through number 4, the journalist, I said, "Do you find this interesting? Is this really the content you want to produce in this article? Things that people," he said, "Yes, this is fascinating. Please keep going. I don't know if I'm going to put all of these in, but I want you to know thus far, I'm very fascinated by your advice that he should remove the iPhone. I like that advice. I too could stand to use that advice. In fact, hold on, I have a text coming in." He puts me on hold while he's telling me he shouldn't be using the iPhone, the addiction. But he's like, "I'm going to put some of these in the article." I said, "Fine, let's continue." Number 5. People presume because you're in prison, you have no privacy. You can have a lot of privacy. You can wake up early. Michael Santos, my partner, would get up like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. People still think that's insane, but he would get up, write, create. It was a very productive day. But when you wake up early, you have a lot of privacy, a lot of time to think and reflect and work while the dorm is sleeping. But once the day gets going, you're in and around a lot of people in the chow hall, the track, and even in the library, it's very loud. Even in the quiet room where you're not supposed to be making noise, guys are playing dominoes and slamming it down. So it's very nice to find some solitude. So something that I enjoyed doing in federal prison, Michael taught me this. There were days I would go and speak with absolutely no one. No words would come from my mouth, and it was awesome. So I would encourage Bankman-Fried. Now, it's easier for me because I'm an introvert, so I can literally like sit in my closet and work and write and create. I don't have to speak to anyone during work hours, and I am thrilled. So it's easier for me. But with Bankman-Fried, I would encourage him, spend a couple of days. Don't talk to anyone. Zero, nada. Get used to just time alone to think and reflect, and then carry that over to the inside. It's frankly very healthy. Now, a lot of defendants, I don't know if Bankman-Fried is doing this. I know I did. They eat very poorly. They put on weight. They manage depression. They drink. They smoke. And they just develop really bad habits, right? They feel like they have no power or control over their own life. And because of that, they make really bad decisions. There's nothing worse than feeling as if you have no control. And if you're not strong, or if you don't have a track record of overcoming adversity to rely on, as I did not, and as many defendants do not, you succumb to making bad decisions. So I would encourage Bankman-Fried, as hard as it might be, to give up vices that he might be engaging in. If it's drinking, if it's smoking, if it's drugs, if it's blaming, if it's excusing, whatever it might be, to the extent that someone can give that up before they go to prison, it's not such a shock and awe when they surrender to the other side of prison boundaries and they go without the alcohol, they go without the food, they go without the drugs. Now, of course, in life, if you search hard enough, you're going to find it, I told the journalist. So I said, look, if Bankman-Fried wants to smoke, he can find the cigarettes. If he wants to use the iPhone, it's there. If he wants drugs, it's there. He wants the alcohol, he'll find it. The consequences, of course, are so significant if you get caught. So I would encourage someone to develop the habit and the ability to resist temptation before they go in, which is why I encouraged him to give up smoking and drinking and any other bad vices. Number 7. Is it number 7? And this is very serious. I would encourage Bankman-Fried to begin writing before he goes to prison, if he goes, 5 minutes a day. Many people in prison read hundreds of books. I read 100 books, and I'll say, what did you read? What did you learn from it? How is it going to help you? Recite something specifically to book 54 you read that's going to help you get a job and rebuild your reputation and career. And a lot of people are like, I can't do that. And it's like, well, okay, it's good you read. I'm sure you learned, but you didn't get the benefit from it that you should. Writing is a very aggressive, active activity. So I would encourage Bankman-Fried to spend 5 or 10 minutes a day before he goes in just documenting what he's feeling. This sucks. Looking at 25 years in jail. They call me Mini Bernie Madoff. Awful. Okay, now I'm going to focus to gratitude. I'm grateful my parents are supporting me. I'm grateful my parents put up their home. What am I doing today to prove worthy of the love and support of my parents? What am I doing today to create a path that can pay these victims back? Am I just talking about change, or am I implementing it? Right? So writing is a very healthy activity. You purge, you put it to paper, and then you can kind of see whether you're an inauthentic fraud or you're legitimate. So I would encourage Bankman-Fried, any defendant, Write for 5 minutes a day. Build up a track record. And the beauty of doing that is, and this is frankly some advice that we gave, I should film this video, the last piece of advice I gave to Jennifer Shaw before she surrendered. In fact, I'm going to save that for a separate video. I just want all of you to get into writing 5 minutes a day before you go in. Before you go to prison, I presume all of you are reading, like you could be reading Lessons from Prison. You could be reading Earning Freedom that my good buddy Michael Santos wrote in federal prison over a course of, I think, 6 weeks. He hand wrote this book. By the way, the First Step Act that many of you will benefit from, Michael was writing about by way of Earning Freedom in 2008 in federal prison, the idea that prisoners should be incentivized to earn their way home more quickly. A decade before the First Step Act passed, Michael Santos was writing about this law that is now enacted. But I'd encourage someone to get in the habit of writing a book report. Why did you read the book? How will it help you before you go to prison? How will it help you in prison? If Bankman-Fried can create a new library of content, given his expertise and quasi-celebrity, maybe it's something he could sell or people could follow along. They could learn from him. Our team is big proponents of creating really unique custom content that really only we can share with our experiences. So when I go to Atlanta to spend time with my good friend Lindsay Chrisley to talk about prison reform and how our team at White Collar Advice and Prison Professors prepares people, it's not going to be done in a boilerplate templated way that anyone can get for free. It's going to be based on the 30-year journey of my business partner's journey through federal prison and how we mentored people along the way, including me, and how we formed this business that tries to lead to real reform and helping people emerge successfully. That comes because over the years, we've read books, we've created content, we've learned from them, and we build them into our own business. We would never ask you to do anything that we do not do. So I would encourage Bankman-Fried to write for 5 minutes a day and then simultaneously write book reports. Number 9, I got to call her in a few minutes. Number 9, we'd encourage him to write a very detailed and thorough going away letter. What's he going to do in prison? How is he going to prove worthy of the love and support? What are the plans moving forward to ensure whatever sanction he gets, and it's not going to be a life sentence, I told the journalist. I know many of you want this dude to be buried underneath the prison 50, 100 years. I don't suspect it will happen. If I were a betting person, he'll plead, probably get 2 decades out in, well, I don't want to get into the numbers because that too will upset you because many of you want him to serve a life sentence. Regardless, at some point he's coming home, and it's a good idea to establish what some of those goals are before he goes in so we can encourage people to hold him accountable. And the last thing I told his journalist, he should have a very rigorous exercise program. See, a number of people surrender to the minimum security camp where if he gets 10 years or more, he's going to go to low security prison. And they're like, wow, look at that track. And I got a big belly from all this drinking and eating and depression. I can't get out of bed and brush my teeth, but I can't eat a whole lot. I can eat a lot and I put on all this weight, but now I'm here and I'm competitive and I'm 40 yards away from this track. So a lot of dudes go all in so quick and they get hurt. I was one of them. I had this terrible, I immediately went from nothing to like running 5 miles a day inside of a week. And if you doubt me, ask Michael Santos if you ever speak with him. And guys are like, dude, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're fat and chubby. You're out of shape. You haven't done nothing in a decade. And now you're running 5 miles a day. I'm like, mind your business. It's a fat farm, big boy timeout. I'm going to get in shape. But then because I went from nothing to something so significant, I got really hurt. I injured my ankle so badly. And the only way I wouldn't feel pain, the longer I ran, eventually the pain went away. But it was brutal. I had this horrific limp. So my point is, before you go to prison, he should be exercising. He should be enduring just the inevitable inconveniences that follow life on the inside of cold showers and, searching your locker and them putting the flashlight in your eye at 3 a.m. It's like, where am I going? I'm leaving a minimum security camp. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Where am I going? There are inconveniences that follow. So to the extent he can prepare for them, I told this journalist, or I'll tell Lindsay or anyone who asks, to the extent that someone can prepare for it, they're more conditioned. They won't complain. They understand that it's coming. And the only way you can learn and get accustomed or conditioned is by doing it. You don't talk about it. You do it. So exercise is something that he should be doing now. It will make him feel healthier and stronger, but it will be a large part of his life in prison, as it is for most people. And I'd frankly encourage him to endure really tough consequences. It's been freezing here in California. For me, it's freezing. I hate it. But it's been 30, 40 degrees when I've been getting my run in. I'd tell Bankman-Fried, go for running shorts and t-shirt. Learn to endure heartache and just pain, because you're going to endure a lot of that on the inside. This would be the time to get accustomed to it. I shared all of this with the journalist and I said, so what do you think? Are you happy you got 10 things Bankman-Fried should do before he goes to prison, or did you want the 10 things that he shouldn't do? He said, I don't know. I'm going to think about it and let you know. But I'd love to know your feedback, and I want all of you to know if you're going to prison. I know it's not easy. I know you don't want to go. But we also know it's harder on those that love and support you. So to the extent that you can prepare for it now, the harder you can work now, the softer landing you're going to have, the easier it will be for your family, the less it will just be easier. So if you're going, Bankman-Fried or me or anybody, put some of these things into practice. So when you get there, it will be easier. Please like and subscribe and comment. So grateful that you let our team of White Collar Advice join you on this journey. You're all awesome. That's a wrap.